conversation. So if you've got a question, you've got a comment, this is how you can be a part of it and let us know. WhatsApp number 0809 440 981. You can also tweet at smooth981. And don't forget, we're streaming live on YouTube as well. So you can catch the live stream up on our YouTube page. It's smooth981. Our special guest this morning is Uwa Osadiaye. He is the Senior VP, Alternative Investments, FBNQuest Funds. And today we're talking about, can Nigeria exit the US dollar gas generation? Good morning, Uwa, and welcome to Business Express this morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome, awesome. So let's just get straight into it. Can you actually help us explain the electricity value chain for everyone listening?
Yeah, sure. Simply, the electricity energy value chain includes all activities that are necessary for producing, distributing, and consuming electrical energy. For Nigeria, on an operational basis, you have the generating companies, which are called GENCOs here. So those will include the thermal power companies, independent power companies, and the NDPHC, and also hydropower companies. Then you have the transmission company of Nigeria, which is TCN, which is federally owned, and the distribution companies, which are called DISCOs, Eco Disco, Benin Disco, Ibadan Disco, and so on and so forth. But the market here really operates as a transitional contract-based market with a single buyer of power from the GENCOs, who then in turn act as a single seller of power to the DISCOs. And this entity, you might have heard of it, is called the Nigeria Bulk Electricity Trading Company. So the DISCOs essentially collect revenues from customers, from you, from me, from everyone that consumes electricity, and remit payment for electricity to the bulk trading company. And then in turn, the bulk trading company then pays the GENCOs, and the GENCOs remits the final payment, to the gas producer. So that's how, in simple terms, that's how it operates.
Okay, thank you for that. Is liquidity the number one issue, or is it aging power infrastructure? Or is it a combination of both, really?
Yes, it is. It really is a combination of both. On the liquidity end, think about it. If the way it works now, distribution companies do not get to charge market reflective prices. So already you can already see that there's a subsidy somewhere along that chain. Okay. And that's on one end. The second end is that the DISCOs, the way they currently operate, do not collect payments for all electricity supplied, because they don't have metering for all customers. Okay, so on one end, you are not charging what you should charge. And second end, you aren't collecting what you should collect anyway. So there's already a pricing and a volume short change. Okay, and that's problem from the DISCO end reflects all across the value chain I described. Embed collects less, remits less to the GENCOs. The GENCOs then have lesser capacity to pay for gas, that they've acquired from the gas producer. So that's on the liquidity end. Mm-hmm. The second problem, like you mentioned, is aging infrastructure. Now, upon the privatization of the power sector, the agreement from the BP at the time and the acquirers, the investors, was, over the years, you're supposed to invest X amount, just to upgrade and make the sector more efficient. You could see the DISCOs haven't done a very good job at that from a funding perspective. Low metering. You have aged distribution networks, whether by ways of lines, by ways of transformers and all of that. So it's a big problem. So liquidity and aging infrastructure are hydra monsters, essentially.
Okay. You're listening to Business Express on Smooth 98.1. Our special guest this morning is Uwa Osadiaye, and he is from FBNQuest. We're talking about the US dollar gas generation. So the power minister thinks that we need to move away from these dollar-denominated gas generation. How exactly will that work, Uwa?
Well, it's something that has been clamored for a while. So let me give you the picture again on the value chain. So you have the customers who consume electricity. We pay Naira to the discos, okay? The discos also pay Naira to the bulk electricity trading company, who in turn have to pay, according to the power purchase agreement, a Naira, a USD indexed Naira payment. So the Gencos already have, a problem because they have to pay the gas producers who would ordinarily sell in US dollars. They have to pay them, in the currency that they would normally sell gas to their customers. I think, it's very problematic when you speak to companies that utilize a lot of electricity from, gas producers, whether directly or through the grid. I mean, a big example would be the cement companies. When you have a big devaluation like we had this year, the impact on production cost, goes up astronomically, whether directly from the grid, electricity from the grid, or other sources. So some of them produce gas, or most of them produce electricity themselves because they purchase gas directly. They act like their own mini Gencos in a way, In that sense, every payment you make as a generating company that relies on maybe typically gas, okay, you feel the direct impact when you have volatility in the FX market. Okay, so I guess from the minister's point of view, the minister is thinking of, look, we produce gas locally. We are really a gas nation as opposed to an oil nation. How do we lower pricing volatility? I mean, I'm sure you felt the significant increase in power prices, and in fact, the government. I mean, we all talk about subsidies on the gasoline side. The subsidies on the power side, but because we don't see it, so it's not a big problem yet. It's huge and it's growing because the government has insisted on not letting the discos basically charge market reflective prices, and right, that is basically driven by FX rates. The FX, the USD Naira exchange rate. So, I mean, I guess the simplest way to look at it is to reduce volatility, make pricing across the value chain Naira. How that's going to be done, I mean, it will be difficult because you get a lot of resistance from the gas producers, essentially. The framework hasn't been released, so I can't really comment on that because I mean, it's difficult to see how that would be implemented. But hopefully there's enough political will to push this through because it will really help, the liquidity across the value chain.
Okay, so if this now goes all across and it's all paid in Naira, would it have to be at the dollar equivalent?
Already we pay at dollar equivalent, essentially. So on a power purchase agreement, it's USD linked. So you pay at NAFEX or NAFEM, so it's basically dollar equivalent. I mean, if I was sitting in the position, maybe as an advisor to power minister, perhaps I'll have a clearer view of how they are thinking of pricing. But I suspect, they might. The discussions that will be going on now is essentially the gas that is being provided to the power industry. How can that gas essentially be Naira based? as opposed to dollar-based. So, you know, to produce 1 million scales of gas in Naira, how can you make that possible? Okay, because I mean, these gas producers, they have what is called a domestic supply obligation. Okay, so that portion of gas that you are to supply to the local industry, either for power or for industries like fertilizer, how can you price that gas in Naira as opposed to dollars, basically? So perhaps that's a discussion that is ongoing currently. The implementation and the process to make that happen wouldn't be immediate because there will have to be concessions both ways. But I suspect that's the sort of conversation that will be ongoing.
All right. We have a few messages coming through. This one is from Cisco Delgado, and he says, "Good morning, Zibby. The way forward is very simple and easy. Solar power can salvage Nigeria from all these electricity-related issues. A lot of Nigerians are now becoming independent electricity generation individuals by using solar power systems." And Fine Oluboroko says, "I, for one, don't see the current discos as being capable. They keep asking the government for higher tariffs when they themselves don't give us transformers and high-tension cables free, which is their duty. We have to buy everything to get electricity in our houses." And Babatunde says, "Why are we trading domestic items in foreign currency? I can't make any sense out of that." Okay. Still on the power sector, but just taking a different route now. Prepaid meters, still an issue. A lot of people don't have them. Will this meter deficit remain until further notice?
Well, to solve the issues in the power sector, the metering issue would have to be sorted out. Okay, whatever their value that would cost, I guess the federal government, would have had to sit down and really quantify the Naira value to solve the metering issue. It's solvable, if you ask me. It's one of the lesser issues within the power sector that can be addressed very quickly within 1 or 2 years. Funding, providing maybe in a sense manufacturing concessions, okay, for a short while, so you can accelerate the process. I know that on the fiscal side of things of this government, there has been a lot of resistance to giving tax waivers and giving tax and concessions. But the truth is, where it's necessary, you have to do so. Recently, there was an announcement on LPG, waiving of VAT and custom duties for LPG importation. So things like that would have to be done in the power sector to encourage investment, funding from government institutions like the BOI for metering manufacturers, just essentially encouraging metering manufacturers and rolling out meters would be required to salvage the power sector. Because basically, no matter how much energy you generate, no matter how much energy or electricity is transmitted to the distribution companies, to the discos, if the discos can't collect what is due, you already have a shortage problem, across board. And collection is really important, okay? And that problem has to be solved. My view is, I'm sure the policymakers recognize the fact that the metering issue is critical and is solvable. And I assume over the next 2 years, we are likely to see a difference.
Okay. So, are you optimistic about the power sector in 2024? Anything you've seen that's making you optimistic if you are?
Well, there's a lot of talk. I mean, like you just got a recent comment. There's a lot of talk on sustainability, where private individuals, sort of sorting out themselves using by way of solar. Although solar is, I mean, it's dependable, but not entirely dependable. You have bad weather, you have rain, you have cloudy, you have high clouds, low sunlight intensity, you produce less energy for your homes. But on that front, I'll give myself as an example. Electricity this year, to be frank, has been better. I have a generator, a diesel generator. I recently found out that the battery, is down because I hardly use it. Okay, we have electricity from the grid, and when that's down, my inverter, comes into play. And looking at the sort of interventions that the minister is looking to introduce by way of pricing. Okay, for one, if you look at the value chain, if the discos have better metering, more customers are metered, meaning that they can collect more revenues, and pricing is less volatile, it's strictly Naira based. What this will mean is it becomes more affordable, okay, on one end. It becomes more available. Customers can then pay more for what they use. The losses are less, okay? And, the discos then have enough money to then invest in infrastructure, new power lines and new transformers and things like that. So, yes, I mean, in my view, it will only get better going forward.
Awesome. I'm taking one last comment from Tayo. Tayo says it's safe to say in the value chain as described that power is being subsidized. Well, that is all the time that we have for Business Express this morning. Thank you for listening. Thanks for your messages. And special thanks to you, Uwa Osadiaye, for joining us on Business Express this morning.
Thank you very much.
Do stay with us. There's a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast. Economy.